Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here with you today. My name is Quinn Oteman, and I am a second-year PhD student in the social work program from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. I also work at the university's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, called the Institute on Community Integration, as a graduate research assistant. To describe myself, I'm a white man wearing glasses with short blonde hair. I also have some facial hair, and I am wearing a white polo t-shirt with blue feather prints. And in my background is a colorful tapestry with oranges and pinks and elephants on them. Before I introduce this project, I want to let you know that we decided to use disability first language. So you'll be hearing autistic instead of person with autism. Today, I'm going to present on aging and autism, experiences with loneliness and social isolation in transition age youth and older adults for the AIR-P Research Day at Autism Cares 2022. This slide is the introduction slide, and on this slide, I will tell you why we wanted to explore this topic. Minimal research exists that actually focuses on lifespan issues among autistic older adults. And we saw this as an issue because we know that the transition into adulthood poses emotional and physical challenges that are difficult to navigate while isolated or alone. In this study, we value autistic voice. A lot of the research about aging and loneliness does not highlight autistic voice, so I wanted to be intentional in doing that with this project. This slide is the first of 3 method slides. In this pilot study, 11 geographically and culturally diverse people participated in one focus group for about 1.5 hours over Zoom. Participants were asked questions such as how they define and experience loneliness, important people in their lives, services and supports they receive, and advice that they would give to their younger selves. Participants did not have to answer the questions, and they could choose to pass if they wanted. This slide is the second of 3 method slides. It represents a snapshot of who we recruited for this study. The image shows 3 boxes connected by lines. The top box has text inside that says recruited N equals 841. The box to the bottom left says ages 18 to 21, N equals 4. The box to the bottom right says ages 45 plus, N equals 7. The survey flyer to express interest and screen for eligibility was open for 7 full days. By day 3, we had over 400 responses. When I closed the survey on day 7, we had almost 900 responses, leaving a diverse sample size of about 841 eligible and interested people from around the United States. This is the third of 3 method slides. This slide also includes more information about participants who responded. As mentioned, 841 people responded to the survey. Overall, 251 people reported that they had a formal diagnosis of autism, whereas 202 people reported they self-identified as autistic. 303 participants were ages 18 to 21, whereas 109 were 45 or older. In this pilot study, the 11 people who participated were diverse. 6 participants identified as African American, 2 as Black, 2 as Hispanic, and 1 as white. Even though the older adult population was smaller than the younger population, response rates to follow up via email were much higher among the older adults. This slide demonstrates the findings and importance. One respondent said, just because someone is isolated or spends time alone does not mean they are lonely. Sometimes spending time in isolation is needed to reset after feeling overstimulated. For others, being in the proximity of other people was enough, and if they did not have an important person in their life, they stated their pet served as that person. These findings are important because the lived experiences of autistic individuals should be centered when creating supports and services that are received to mitigate these feelings of loneliness and to age successfully and healthily across the lifespan. The second finding slide shows 4 boxes that represent 4 major themes in the groups. In the upper left corner box, it says isolation does not equal loneliness. Just as I previously stated, being isolated does not always equate to feeling lonely. In the upper right box, it says education. We heard a lot about more education that is needed for non-autistic people about how to support autistic adults when it comes to feeling lonely. The bottom right box says accessible mental health. We heard from a number of participants that they wanted more resources and skills to cope with feelings of loneliness, and in some cases, to talk to other autistic individuals about this feeling, or even a mental health professional. The bottom left and final box says relationships. Throughout these groups, almost everybody was able to identify an important person in their life. In this sample, family members were the most important people in their support systems when they felt sad or lonely. This is the results slide. In both groups, more autistic-centered resources, education, and mental health care were identified as gaps in supports to mitigate feelings of loneliness. Additionally, in this pilot study, participants were diverse in culture, race, geography, education level, employment, and living situations. It was reported that some factors that contributed to feeling lonely were bullying and ableism in their respective situations. This is the discussion slide. A major takeaway from this project is that people want to talk about this topic, as reflected in the sample size that we initially recruited. Given the large sample size, it felt unethical to not follow up with everyone, hence the reason why a follow-up to this pilot is being planned. Lastly, the online platform did increase accessibility and allow for cameras to be off, which was a benefit for this pilot. However, the drawback is that responses were sometimes impacted by the nature of online sessions. Future policies and interventions should consider autistic perspectives to successfully age in place in the communities of their choice. This slide is the questions for feedback slide. The first question is, what can be done to ensure autistic individuals get more chances to tell their stories? The second reads, how can knowing more about the lived experiences of autistic individuals influence policy and practice? The third reads, how can knowing more about the lived experiences of autistic individuals influence the quality of life and inclusion of autistic individuals? Thank you for listening. That is all for today. If you feel I missed anything with this pilot or have other comments, you can contact me, Quinn Oteman, at my email, otema001@umn.edu. Thank you.